Fill me in on where we are, and from your perspective, in a legal perspective, what is going on in Oxford with this group who was thinking about apparently sending a letter to Governor Reeves. Take it from there.
Yeah, certainly. So there's a group that's formed called Mississippians for Mask Choice. And what's transpired over the past couple weeks, there was a school board of election vote where they decided to let the parents decide whether children going back to school would wear masks or not. Then 4 hours, and they voted 4-1 to let the parents decide. 4 days later, the superintendent unilaterally sent out a message overriding that vote and essentially saying, actually, masks are going to be required. Now, that's caused significant anxiety and disappointment, and a lot of parents are very upset about this because it was 4 days after a vote that reflected the community's position and weighing in of weeks with the various board members and folks that are involved in making that decision. So now we find ourselves in this position where that process was completely overruled, and we've been asking questions about what's the local information that justifies this action. The difference today between COVID a long time ago is we have the benefit of studies of how COVID impacts kids, how mask mandates work or don't, and a lot of other factors that parents can take into account in terms of what is best for their child. But we've had a superintendent step in the place of the parent, make this decision before, after a vote went down, and there's questionable scope of authority, questionable information in terms of health-based data, what is going on locally to justify this thing. I'll tell you, I was looking at some of the Mississippi Department of Health information this morning, and in the county of Lafayette, for the preceding 6 weeks, there have been 0 deaths overall. And there's been an average for ages 5 to 17, so school-age kids, there's been an average of 3.5 cases. So to me, there's nothing compelling to justify such a draconian measure to overrule this process that went down, that the parents were involved in, but then completely taken out of the equation.
Here's the other question here in this paradigm of authority. Why can't we get a clear answer? Because I would think it would not change from school district to school district. I asked over the weekend for some type of statement from the state superintendent, and here's what I got. The state superintendent advises districts to follow, advises them to follow whatever the CDC or the DOH, Department of Health guidelines are. Local school boards ultimately are responsible for passing policies for their districts. The Mississippi Department of Education nor the state superintendent have the authority to override a local school board's policy. So if the school board is in charge of this, can't they just say, look, the superintendent is out of order, boom, our ruling holds?
Yeah, you would think so. You would certainly think so that would be the case. But as you can imagine, after this decision came down, it's been hard to get that type of information from anyone. But I would take a step back, Paul. I would say that it's beyond these type of decisions from interfering what would otherwise be a very good process. What we're asking in our letter to the governor and laying out is, look, there are local entities that are abusing their authority that is infringing on fundamental liberties of parents to make decisions, well-informed decisions for what is best for their kids. And I'll stop there for a second because there's some parents and teachers that have reached out. Their kids suffer from anxiety or all sorts of other harm caused by wearing masks in the school. They know because they went through it last year. And the local officials aren't taking this into account. So we're asking the governor to step in and just say, look, we're a no mandate state. He rightfully said not too long ago that the guidance coming from the CDC, we know that it's been influenced by the national teachers unions and other political influences. He said that it was foolish. He said that Mississippi wouldn't be a state where he would embrace these type of mandates. But unfortunately, there are some local officials disregarding that advice from the governor and trying to impose mandates that really undercut the role of the parent. in making these types of decisions for their children. That's what we're asking.
I don't know if it's going to catch on elsewhere, but Tennessee and Arkansas in the last couple of days, and I think Tennessee yesterday, also announced a special session of their legislature to address this as far as the mask and the kids are concerned. So we'll see what happens. But me not being an attorney, I'm sitting here wondering if a child undergoes some type of respiratory backlash from this, would not that principal be legally culpable in some way for doing this? I mean, are they insulated from any lawsuits or any consequences at all?
Well, I imagine I don't know the ins and outs of that degree of liability, but I think in making these decisions, I used to make these type of decisions when I worked at the Environmental Protection Agency. You've got to look at the comprehensive scope of information. You've got to weigh perceived benefits with perceived risks and then make those sorts of decisions. And in this instance, those decisions are best handled by the parent because the school doesn't always know those specifics about the child, what is best for the child's health, what's best for the child's learning. And that is all that we're asking. We're asking the local officials to step back, let the parents step in, which is an absurd premise.
All right,
how did we get here to where the parents have to ask
Mandy,
permission?
hold on. We're going to be out of time, but there was something I wanted to ask you, and I didn't get a chance to ask you at the fair, but I want to end with this one and transfer over to that other question that I left hanging. So can you hang out for a second?
Yeah, certainly.
Hold on. Mandy Gunasekara, former EPA Chief of Staff. We will talk to her more coming up in just a moment. Oh, let me get back to Mandy, and we were talking about, let's put an end to the mask thing here. Where do we go from there? What's next on this venture?
Yeah, no, thank you. So we've got a Facebook group. If anyone's interested in finding out more information, there's a Facebook group called Parents Against Mask Mandates in Oxford School District. I know it's long, but if that's too much, people can DM me on Twitter at MississippiMG. And then what I would also encourage people to do is to reach out to the local representative and call the governor's office. There's a switchboard number on the website. Just let them know. They need to hear from us. I do think that they're on the same side as us in terms of letting parents decide. That's ultimately what it comes down to, because of the scope of information and understanding what is best for your child is something a parent knows much better than any official, be it local, regional, or statewide.
And Mandy, so that we're not sidetracking here, the prevailing thought for most parents that you've talked to, and I know that we've seen, is that they just want the choice. If they want their kids to wear the mask, they got to be able to do it, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. That is 100%.
Quickly, before we let you go, we were going to talk about this over at the fair. You guys are kind of involved in the NIL, the name, image, and likeness. Explain that a little bit to the audience.
Yeah, certainly. So I believe it was starting July 1st. Athletes, NCAA athletes, were able to use their name, image, and likeness to develop to monetize personally their name, image, and likeness. This is a massive change from what had been the case. And with this new policy, and it varies state by state, depending on the local laws and local timelines, but what we've become involved with is there's this company called Dreamfield, which is essentially a compliance marketplace. As you have young college athletes, whether they have large followings on Twitter or they have a high-profile role in a high-profile team, there's things they probably aren't thinking about, whether it's legal issues, tax issues, stuff that this is a good policy for them to take advantage of, but we want to ensure that they're doing it in a way that is consistent with the laws and the expectations. So this company, Dreamfield, is a marketplace that connects businesses to athletes and helps ensure that that is done in a safe, balanced, and reasonable manner.
Yeah, but here's the question: is if this were a Bible, is everything written? I mean, is the book closed? I mean, it's kind of an evolving thing, isn't it?
No, absolutely, and that's it's. Some people have referred to it as the Wild Wild West. It's brand new, and a lot of various places are trying to figure out what to do. A lot of universities, I've talked to boosters, university leaders, and the scope of stakeholders involved. So something we're actually working on. The details are still to be firmed up, but we're looking to host a roundtable with stakeholders, including our state leadership at the federal level. We're working with Senator Wicker's office. He's the chair of the Commerce Committee, and this issue falls squarely in their jurisdiction. Looking to host it would be a closed-door roundtable so people can have very open, earnest discussion, but to host that up in Oxford and have the discussion on what do we need to define to protect athletes, to protect businesses, and make sure we can move forward in this new policy in a mutually beneficial manner. And that's one place where Dreamfield has been working on for a long time, and we're looking to develop a positive conversation.
Is the mission statement and the information about the company on the internet?
It is, yeah. If people just search Dreamfield, Google Dreamfield, it'll pop up, and they'll be able to go to the website, find out some more information. If you're an athlete, if you're a business, if you're someone involved with the university, whatever it may be, they can go check it out.
I got it.
And again, I'm always available and happy to talk to anyone.
Mandy,
the best way to reach me is on Twitter. Yes.
What's the activation date on this as far as the age of the athlete?
So, it's as soon as they become the athlete, I believe the majority age is when they're 18. I believe that's the case, Paul, but I may have to follow back up and just confirm that.
So it is evolving. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess the mission statement would be for, as far as the athlete's concerned, is make sure they don't, whatever deals they're cutting, they don't compromise their scholarship or their future, and also just in some ways, make the wisest financial decisions.
You know
Go ahead, Perez.
You know the ball player from Texas we talked about the other day? He's a junior.
Yeah.
Well, he's 18.
Yeah.
Not going to do that whole senior year in high school thing. Going to go right to.
I think it's already six figures. No, it's already
closer to seven
figures now, as far as he's concerned.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be interesting. And would you say that Dreamfield is going to act kind of like an agent?
Yeah, essentially an agent, or it's not standing in the place of agents, but a marketplace for players and agents and businesses to have this conversation in a productive, constructive, and legally compliant way.
I had a chance we were talking to your husband. We're almost out of time, but I want to mention this because can you relate the TikTok story that he did with me?
I don't know if I was
you may not have been there, but he was talking about a gymnast, I think, that had over several million TikTok followers, and it was monetized already, where she would be able to get in and literally start off making over $1 million. It was just it was amazing.
Well, and to Perez's point, and to that point, so there's some athletes that have large followings and they have infrastructure around them to help them make these decisions. But there's those that maybe they have a large following, but it's not, you don't have the infrastructure of support like you would with professional football leagues looking at you as a college athlete. And so Dreamfield is meant to step in and help those athletes that have popularity and a following, but maybe not the infrastructure around them, to make sure they're engaging in a way that is beneficial for them.
I never thought about this. Let's take, for instance, the number one example be Arch Manning. If he just makes a video of him throwing a football, and all of a sudden it's on TikTok or Twitter or Instagram, and he's got 50 million followers, they're going to sell that advertising on this. Somebody's going to be making some money, but prior to this, he couldn't make any money out of it.
Yeah, that's right. He couldn't, and if he did, it would put, to the degree he had scholarships or things along those, supporting him totally on the line. There's a pretty famous case from a long time ago that really started this whole movement, and it's just but the athletes, they can monetize their value in a new way, but there's all sorts of things they have to take into consideration they probably normally wouldn't, and that's what we're working to help set up in a successful, constructive way through this company.
Always good talking to you. Dream Field is the name of that company if you want to go and take a look at that. And one more time, if you want to get involved as far as the mask is concerned, again, go to the Twitter account, or where else was it?
You can go to my Twitter account, Mississippi MG, or the Facebook group, Parents Against Mask Mandates for Oxford School District.
Mandy, you're busier than ever.
Always.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it very much. Mandy Gunasekara, former EPA Chief of Staff for Trump and the Trump administration, and also principal of Section 7 strategies in her new position. All right, Perez, it's all yours, baby, all yours.
Well, I guess I will do this one more time. Mm-hmm. Visitation and services for JT will be, visitation will be Wednesday from 4 to 7, and the service will be held on Thursday at 11 o'clock. And that'll be at Broadmoor Baptist Church in Madison, Mississippi. In lieu of flowers, a memorial donation may be made to the J.T. Williamson Education Support Fund at Palmer Home. Post Office Box 746 in Columbus, 39703. And the family also asks that you consider